My name is Alana and this is my husband Harley. He's decided to join us here today for moral support. So we've been invited here today to share our journey through EB and the impact EB had on our everyday life, the struggles, the ups, the downs and the amazing support that we received from Deborah Australia. Our story starts in February 2017, our IVF journey. I know it would have been difficult to fall pregnant as I have polycystic ovarian syndrome. We started our first cycle so excited and scared, me mainly as I hate needles. Harley was an amazing support person through the entire journey. However, I think he liked injecting me a little bit too much. He used to call himself Dr. Harley. So I was so hopeful, thinking how easy this is going to be. Well, I was incredibly wrong. It was so hard mentally and physically. I remember just thinking, why is this so hard? Everything was already done and the egg just needed to stick. One morning of late June 2017, I did an at-home pregnancy test. I waited and again it was negative. I was devastated. I just wanted to give up and come to terms that we would never be parents. I threw the test in the bin and I got ready for my day as usual. But before I left for work, I was curious. I took that test out of the bin and I know what you're all thinking. I shouldn't have done that. But there was the faintest positive line on that pregnancy test. And to say I was a little bit emotional would be an understatement. I instantly rang Harley and I told him, there's a second line and I think we've done it this time. I said to him while crying. Cool, calm and collected Harley, he was like, don't get too excited, we'll retest tomorrow and see what happens. Well, for the next 7 days I retested every day, twice a day, morning and night, just to be sure. Blood test day rolled around and we waited for those results, and at 2 p.m. that day I got the call. Congratulations, you're pregnant. I think my heart stopped beating for a second. I was on cloud 9. The pregnancy was a breeze. We found out we were having a little girl and all the tests and scans came back normal. I do also remember thinking, gosh, I hope everything is okay. My worst fear was to have a sick child. Well, I guess that's all parents. March 2018 rolled around so quickly, but the last 2 weeks of that pregnancy dragged on. I was booked in for an induction on the 26th of March 2018, and our little girl was born at 7 p.m. that day. Alexis Susan Gordon, weighing 3.78 kilos and 55 centimetres long, was already so loved, and our hearts were full, and we couldn't wait for our new chapter to begin. Alexis was born with peeling of the skin, as the nurse called it, on her feet, her hands, her back and her tummy. The birthing midwife said to us, overdue babies can tend to be born with their newborn skin peeling sometimes. We didn't know, so we just took her advice and thought that everything was okay. Shift swap occurred and the nurse took over our care around 10 p.m. She was very concerned about the peeling skin, especially on her feet. Her feet were almost translucent. The nurse arranged for a paediatric doctor to come to the birthing unit and have a look. Well, the rest of it is a little bit of a blur to me. They took Alexis to the NICU and wrapped her from head to toe in dressings and bandages that they use for burn victims. I was so overwhelmed, I was scared. I had to return to the maternity ward alone that night, just me and my thoughts. I sat up Googling rare skin conditions at birth, and I went through so many conditions, and then there it was. Epidermolysis Bullosa. I knew it. From that moment I diagnosed Alexis. I texted Harley straight away and I said, this is what she has, I just know it. I told my sister and my best friend, who was also my birthing support people. I barely slept that night and I spent hours in the NICU with Alexis. The next morning the head doctor and some student doctors stood around Alexis's bed for the morning rounds. The only thing I remember from that whole conversation was the sentence as the doctor looked us in our eyes. He said, we think she has epidermolysis bullosa. She'll be bedridden her whole entire life and you won't even be able to hold her. And there's no one that specialises in this. We just accepted that, no questions, nothing. Later that day, we were advised that Alexis would need to be transferred to the Sydney Children's Hospital. I was discharged. We made our way to the hospital and Alexis came by nets. In emergency ward, when Alexis arrived, we were greeted by a dermatologist. She was part of a large team who specialises in EB and assured us that we were in the right place for the care of Alexis, and if everything was to go well, we should be home in time for Easter. Well, Alexis had different plans. We were in hospital for 3 weeks, and we spent our first family Easter at the Sydney Children's Hospital. In this time, Alexis's biopsy came back positive, and we further tested Harley and myself to confirm if this is a recessive gene. Those tests took 7 months. Alexis was diagnosed with recessive dystrophic epidermolysis bullosa. She is the first person on both sides of our family to have EB. We didn't know what our journey ahead would be like. All that mattered was making sure that we could protect her and give her the best life possible. Our EB nurse from the Sydney Children's Hospital, Rebecca, got us started on the National Epidermolysis Bullosa Dressing Scheme. The scheme provides thousands of dollars worth of dressings each month to EB sufferers. This is heavily subsidised by the government's Department of Health. The amount of money that we could have been spending on dressings would have sent us bankrupt. This works out roughly to be $140,000 annually just to cover the cost of dressings, to keep EB sufferers comfortable, minimise infections, and to minimise further damage to their already fragile skin. We quickly became nurses and doctors rather than a mother and a father figure to Alexis. A simple nappy change became a full body inspection, always looking for new wounds, blisters, to ensure that we were giving Alexis the best care possible. We were told Alexis would have to have daily dressing changes for the rest of her life, that her toes and fingers may web due to multiple injuries, that she would lose her fingernails and toenails due to blisters under her nail bed and suffer extensive scarring all over her body. She will also find it difficult to swallow normal foods, as the blisters cause not only blisters in her mouth but also in her esophagus. Her life expectancy had decreased due to EB, and we will be in and out of hospital for the rest of our life. We learned that skin infections were present just by the smell of her wound, or even just by the colour. I mean, what normal parent knows that stuff? We found ourselves forever explaining EB to many different health professionals, with GPs saying to us that they had never heard of EB. Friends and family would always say, "Can't she just have a keratin replacement and she would be all better?" I guess when you're not in the situation, it's hard to understand how a genetic condition works. We were once those people. We spent multiple amounts of hours each week doing bleach baths, dressing changes, lancing blisters, and dressing skin injuries. Each day was different, and EB parents with EB babies, have to think differently. Even when we picked her up, we would have to analyse the situation, the toys she played with and the clothes she wore, the spoon she ate with, car seats, prams, high chairs, mattresses, and bottles could all potentially cause damage. There have also been moments where we blame ourselves for bringing her into this world. How could we be so cruel to let her live with that much pain? We wish we knew about EB before we had her. We wish we knew that we were carriers. We wish we knew that we had a 25% chance that each of our children could inherit EB. But on the other hand, we're very blessed to have had Alexis as our daughter. She has opened up our hearts and at the hearts of so many people. Rebecca also got us in touch with Deborah Australia, who made living with EB much easier. The support provided by this organisation was life-changing for us. The team provided cooling for Alexis for summer periods of the year, as the heat is not good for the EB sufferers. They had taken a huge load financially off our shoulders by assisting us with the purchasing of bottle teats, the cost of her daily medications, dressings that were not available on the dressing scheme, high nutritional formula, and much more. Deborah worked extremely hard and are dedicated to spreading awareness of EB and its impact on families just like ours. They care about every individual who has this terrible disease. We are not just a number to them. I love that Deborah know our story. They know us, and we are just not just another family with EB to them. It's like we are part of a bigger family and a community. Simone works so hard to build relationships with families and supports us all through this long, painful path. She knows all too well the struggles of EB Our children are her children, and I know that our pain is felt not only by Simone, but by the whole Deborah team and community. We thank our lucky stars that Deborah Australia exists. Without them, our lives would have been a lot different, and we would have struggled immensely. Sadly, on the 19th of May 2021, just 5 weeks after the birth of her baby brother, Alexis was diagnosed with a Wilms tumour that spread from her kidney to her heart. Treatment was available, but many factors prevented that treatment from starting or could have caused Alexis much more pain. Alexis passed away 2.5 weeks later on the 4th of June 2021, surrounded by all her loved ones. If Alexis didn't have EB, we would have fought that cancer. But EB prevented that, and it also took her away from her family. We miss her every day, and life is not the same without her. She has a mum, a dad, a brother, a little baby sister, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, and many extended family and friends who all love her dearly. We speak of her daily, and we remember all the great days that we shared with her. I'm sure you all have seen the amazing memories appearing whilst we are here today, and we want to thank you for your time to hear our story and our journey with EB, how it has impacted us, and how generous Deborah Australia have been since the day Alexis was born and every day since she has passed away. Thank you.